Good afternoon, everyone. So today's discussion is about inflammatory disorders of the digestive system. Kasi diba, I divided ito, non-inflammatory and inflammatory. Medyo hindi ko nasunod yung CU, pero okay lang yun. Ang halaga na discuss natin lahat. So for inflammatory conditions, okay, bago tayo mag-umpisa, ha? Okay, dito ko muna isusulat, ha? Ayan, okay. Ano ba ang commonalities ng mga inflammatory conditions ng digestive system? Siyempre, inflammation to. Dahil inflammation yan, class, pare-pareho ang signs and symptoms, di ba? Sabi ko lahat sila may itis. So, pare-pareho silang may pain. Okay? Pare-pareho silang may pain. Pare-pareho sila. Iba-iba lang yung location ng pain, pero pare-pareho silang may pain. Pag may inflammation sa GI tract, we impair the function of the GI tract. So pare-pareho silang magkakaroon ng indigestion or dyspepsia. Yung bang hindi natunawan, yan, that is the dyspepsia. Tapos, pare-pareho rin silang nausea and vomiting. Bakit? Okay. Magbigay tayo ng simpleng pathophysiology ng nausea and vomiting. Alam mo, meron tayong vomiting center sa brain natin. Ang tawag doon, chemoreceptor trigger zone. Okay. So anything that will stimulate the chemoreceptor trigger zone will cause nausea and vomiting. And this is stimulated by, unahin na natin to any inflammation in the abdominal region. Pwedeng mag-stimulate yan. Kaya may nausea and vomiting, lahat ng inflammation. Tapos nakalagay pa doon, any obstruction in the abdominal region. In the abdominal region, ayan, pwede ka rin magkaroon ng nausea and vomiting. Ano pa? Anti-cancer drugs. Diba yung mga nakaka-receive ng anti-cancer drug, nasusuka kasi they may also stimulate yun. Yung mga taong tumataas ang ICP, yan, nag-i-increase din yung stimulation sa chemoreceptor trigger zone. Mag-i-increase ang ICP. Okay. O ano pa? Yung mga nahihilo, pag nahihilo, nasusuka kasi that will stimulate it. O kaya yung mag-isip ka lang ng kahit anong thoughts na maisip mo na kadiri na nakakasuka or any sights that you have seen. Ano? Yung iba, di ba, pag nakakita ng mga patay na daga, snake, whatever, ayan, nasusuka na sila. So ito yung mga nag-stimulate ng ating chemoreceptor trigger zone. And one of them is inflammation. So lahat ng mga itis na pag-uusapan natin, pare-pareho ng signs and symptoms. At pag pare-pareho ng signs and symptoms, pare-pareho ang nursing diagnosis and in general, pare-parehong intervention. Naintindihan? Nakakasunod ka ba? Okay, very good. Alam nyo, pag natapos natin to ngayong gabi, tapos na. CU4 and 5 na lang. Sana matapos. No? Anyway, so ano ba yung mga pag-uusapan natin? So pag-uusapan natin yung gastritis, okay, gastritis, peptic ulcer disease, okay. Pag-uusapan natin yung IBD, inflammatory bowel disease. Pag-uusapan natin yung appendicitis. Pag-uusapan natin ang diverticulitis. Pag-usapan natin ang cholecystitis at ang pancreatitis. Tapos na ang CU1 to 3 pag natapos natin yan. CU4 and 5 na lang tayo pag natapos natin. So, umpisahan natin to dun sa gastritis at sa peptic ulcer disease. Pagsasabayin ko ang discussion nito. Pagsasabayin ko rin yung dalawang IBD. Pagsasabayin din natin yung appendicitis and diverticulitis. Ito gusto hindi ko pwedeng pagsabayin to eh. Okay, so iisa-isahin natin. Okay, are we clear? Nakakasunod ba tayo? Mabilis ba o okay lang? Yes, sakto lang. O, sige, very good. O, sige, mag-aral mabuti ha. Mag-aral mabuti, face-to-face ang exam. Okay, so let us have gastritis first. So look at gastritis. Ito yung gastritis. Okay. Okay, ito yung peptic ulcer disease. Pareho naman silang may inflammation sa mucosa lining. Naalala mo to, diniscuss ko to, di ba? Yung mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, at saka serosa. The only difference is, Kapag gastritis, meron ka lang irritation, namumula, namamaga, ayan, mapula. This is normal, okay? Pero pag peptic ulcer disease, merong erosion, may butas, okay? Nabutas yung mucosal lining. Yun lang yung difference with regards to etiology, to the pathogenesis, and even the characteristic pain, pareho sila. Okay, so kaya sabay ko na lang din silang i-discuss. Okay? So let us discuss gastritis and peptic ulcer disease. So pag sinabi natin gastritis, ano lang ang meron? There is inflammation of the mucosal lining of the stomach. Yan, gastritis. Gastritis can be acute or chronic. So this can be acute or chronic. Pag sinabi nating acute, sudden yung onset. Pag sinabi nating chronic, well, paulit-ulit siya, no? Repeated bouts of it, hindi nawawala. So that is your gastritis. Tapos yung peptic ulcer disease, actually sabi sa libro natin, pag peptic ulcer disease daw, there is inflammation and erosion of the mucosal lining of the esophagus, stomach, and duodenum. So esophagus, stomach, and duodenum. So kasali sa peptic ulcer disease yung esophageal ulcer. Kaya lang hindi naman siya very common, di ba? So ang pag-uusapan na lang natin yung gastric ulcer tsaka duodenal ulcer. Pareho itong may inflammatory conditions. Tapos pareho rin sila ng etiology. Okay. Ano ba yung etiology nila? Dalawa ang pointing etiology. Number one is infection. Anong infection po? The bacteria causing it is Helicobacter pylori. This is a gram-negative acidophilic bacteria. The one bacteria that can survive the acidic environment of the stomach. Kaya huwag kang magtaka kung yung mga may peptic ulcer disease or gastritis is being treated with antibiotics kasi ang isang cause ay infection. Okay. Number two is the corrosive effect. Corrosive effect of hydrochloric acid. So, ibig sabihin, mas matindi yung effect ng hydrochloric acid sa GI tract natin. Oo. Bakit naman siya nagkaroon ng ganyang corrosive effect? No? Number one, siguro nagkaroon ng increased hydrochloric acid production. Dumami kasi yung production ng hydrochloric acid. That is one. Okay. Number two, there is loss of protective barrier. Nawalan yung protective barrier. Ano ba yung protective barrier natin sa GI tract? Diba, one of the protective barrier is prostaglandin. This will protect us or protect our mucosal lining against the corrosive effect. Nawala. Paano nga pa nawawala yung prostaglandin? Diba, class, kapag ikaw ay gumamit ng aspirin, pag ikaw ay gumamit ng NSAIDs, diba, anong ginagawa ng NSAIDs? Inhibit synthesis, diba? Ano ba yun? Ayan. Inhibits prostaglandin synthesis. So pag na-inhibit yung prostaglandin, nawawala yung protective barrier. Kaya di ba yung aspirin tsaka NSAIDs ay nagkukos ng GI toxicity? Di ba? Naalam natin yan from pharma. Tapos ano pa? Nagkaroon pa ng loss of mucus. Yung mucus kasi, ito rin yung nagpo-protect. Pati yung mucus nawala. So nawala ng protective barrier. Okay? Ba't naman nag-increase yung production? Okay. One drug that may cause increased production of hydrochloric acid is steroids. Ang steroids, nag-i-increase ang production ng hydrochloric acid. So, ayun, nagkakaroon ng corrosive effect. Hindi lang yan. Plus all the irritating chemicals na nakaka-irritate dun sa lining ng GI tract, pwede kang mag-cause ng increased corrosive effect. So, yung peptic ulcer disease, nagkakaroon ng erosion. So, lagyan pa natin to ng risk factors. May mga risk factors pa ba? O naman. Risk factors include smoking. gastric irritant yan eh. Okay? Ano ba? Alcohol, gastric irritant din yan. O, di ba? Yung mga spicy food, gastric irritant din yan. Stress. Di ba pag nai-stress tayo, nagkakaroon ng release of cortisol. The cortisol is cortisol is a steroid that can increase hydrochloric acid. Galing yan sa adrenal glands natin, right? Okay, so smoking, alcohol, spicy, stress. Kaya meron tayong tinatawag na stress ulcer, di ba? Di ba yung sickness is a form of stress. Kaya yung kapag ang patient natin may burn injury, di ba stress yung burn, so nagkukos ng tinatawag na curling ulcer. This is an ulcer secondary to stress caused by burn injury. Tapos yung mga na-stroke patient, stroke, CBA, hindi nyo pa yata alam yung CBA, stroke patients, ayan, alam mo yan. Sila naman yung, di ba, syempre naman, stress din yun. So nag-perform din sila ng ulcer. Ang tawag doon ay Cushing's ulcer. Yan. So these are all risk factors. Hindi lang yan, meron pa. Yung exposure to certain chemicals. No? Chemicals like nickel and lead. Lalo na yung mga naka-expose sa mga industrialized factories. No? This can cause chronic gastritis, lalo na yung chronic exposure to that. Okay? So these are the different risk factors. Okay? So may inflammation. So what will be the clinical manifestations? Signs and symptoms. Anong sabi ko? May pain. Where is the pain? The pain is in the epigastric area. And the characteristic of pain is that it is knowing pain. Yung knowing, mahapdi ang sikmura. So yung iba tinatawag din nilang burning pain. This is the characteristic pain of gastritis and peptic ulceritis. Aside from that, syempre, sinabi ko na kanina, may indigestion, may nausea and vomiting. Pare-pareho to hanggang matapos yung ating mga inflammatory conditions, pare-pareho ang signs and symptoms at pare-pareho rin ang nursing diagnosis. Okay? Nakakasunod. Nagsusulat kayo. Ayan, salamat. Very good. Very good. Okay, mag-aral ha. Pag binasa nyo yung module at yung books na hindi nyo naiintindihan, itanong sa akin. Okay, isang common question in the examination class is differentiating the pain of gastric ulcer from duodenal ulcer. So we differentiate gastric ulcer from duodenal ulcer. This is one important, common question in the examination. Okay, how are we going to differentiate them? Pareho silang, ilalagay ko sa gitna, pareho silang epigastric, pareho rin silang knowing. Question, pwede pong pabalik sa first page ng white page, screenshot ko lang. Pabalik ng first page. Ito yung first page. Yung kanina, ako, hindi ito, ano nga, whiteboard. Pero sige, tignan natin, anak, ha? Tignan natin. Ito ba? Is this it? Uy, anak, ito yon. Box na. Okay, balik na natin. Ayan. So sabi ko, pareho silang epigastric, pareho silang knowing or burning. Anong difference? The difference is the occurrence of pain. Pag gastric ulcer, pain occurs after eating. Pagkatapos kumain, sasakit yung tiyan niya. Actually, eating aggravates the pain. Pag kumakain, sumasakit tiyan niya eh. Eh bakit? Kasi yung ulcer nasa stomach. If the ulcer is in the stomach, lagay natin dito, halimbawa ito yung esophagus, ito yung stomach, ayan. Okay. Kung ang ulcer ay nandito sa stomach, Okay. Eh, natural, pag kumain ka, kalululun mo pa lang nung kinakain mo, magkakaroon na ng increased production of hydrochloric acid. Diba? Dadami na yung mga hydrochloric acid siya. Mai-irritate na yun. Masakit yun. Okay. So alam mo ba kung anong ginagawa ng mga pasyente para mawala yung pain na yun? Nag-i-induce sila ng vomiting. Vomiting relieves the pain. Kasi pag wala nang laman yung tiyan nila, wala nang masakit. Okay? So vomiting relieves the pain of the patient. Kaya nagpapasuka sila. Kaya yung mga pasyente na may gastric ulcer, ayaw nilang kakain kasi sumasakit yung tiyan nila. So this is associated with weight loss. Okay. Sa duodenal ulcer, usually pain occurs 2 hours after eating. 2 hours pa after eating. Bakit? Eh kasi 'di ba, anong sabi natin? How long is gastric emptying? 'Di ba 2 to 4 hours? So kung ang ulcer niya nandito, pag kumain ng patient natin, magsasara ang pyloric sphincter. O walang lalabas diyan, walang makaka-irritate ng ulcer, 'di ba? O kailan magbubukas yan? 2 hours after eating. Kaya pag 2 hours after eating, bukas na yung pyloric sphincter, lalabas na yung mga gastric juice, mai-irritate na yan. Okay? So anong gagawin ng pasyente para mawala yung pain? Kakain. Okay? Eating relieves the pain. Kasi every time the patient will eat, nagsasara ang pyloric sphincter. So walang lalabas doon. So dahil dyan, tataba siya kasi kain siya ng kain. Okay? Okay, another important difference is the appearance of pain at night. Sa gastric ulcer, okay, no pain at night. Hindi magigising ang pasyente para sumakit ang tiyan. Hindi eh. Bakit? Wala naman yung tiyan niya. Diba? Pero sa duodenal ulcer, usually associated with pain at night. Bakit? O kasi kumain siya ng that there is continuous gastric emptying. Okay? There is continuous gastric emptying. So, pag kumain siya ng alas 8 ng gabi, hapunan, okay, kailan ang gastric emptying? 2 to 4 hours. So, ang alas 10 ng gabi hanggang alas 12, wala nang laman yung tiyan. Lahat na nasa duodenum. So, nagigising siya ng alas 12, ang sakit ng tiyan niya. O, tapos anong gagawin niya para mawala yung sakit ng tiyan niya? Alas 12 ng hating gabi, anong gagawin niya? Kakain siya ulit. Kasi it will relieve the pain of the patient. So that is the difference between gastric ulcer and duodenal ulcer pain. Nakakasunod? Common question in the examination yan, class. Nakakasunod tayo? Okay, so what are the nursing diagnosis? Okay, knowing this as ito yung ating mga signs and symptoms, di ba? O, lalagyan ko ng nursing diagnosis. Minsan ko na lang ito gagawin. Kasi pag pare-pareho ang signs and symptoms, pare-pareho yung nursing diagnosis, di ba? So the patient will have either acute or chronic pain. That's a nursing diagnosis. Indigestion is already an accepted diagnosis. Nausea is already an accepted nursing diagnosis. Tapos pag may vomiting, there is risk for fluid volume excess related to vomiting. Tapos meron ka ring risk for metabolic alkalosis. Kasi di ba pag nagsusuka, may metabolic alkalosis, di ba? So these are the different nursing diagnoses. And what is the most definitive diagnostic test? Okay. The most definitive diagnostic test, okay, syempre, endoscopy. Silipin natin yung upper GI. So ang tawag nila esophagogastroscopy. Okay, o siguro para mas hanggang duodenum lang, duodenoscopy. Ayun. Endoscopy yan. Sisilipin yung loob. Ayun. Esophagus, gastro, stomach, duodenum, sisilipin. Tapos kapag sinilip, pwede silang kumuha ng sample for biopsy para makita nila kung ito ay mayroong H. pylori. Pag may H. pylori, doon lang nila iti-treat. Hindi tayo manghuhula. Pag hindi tayo gumawa ng endoscopy, hindi natin binibigyan ng antibiotic. Only with esophago-gastroduodenoscopy. Ano pa? Well, sabi sa atin, pwede daw tayong gastric analysis. Gastric juice or gastric secretion analysis. Gastric acid analysis. Para makita kung mayroong overproduction, the volume. Now, even the H. pylori can be seen with gastric analysis. Okay. Pwede kang magpa-x-ray, abdominal x-ray. Pero ang abdominal x-ray naman, wala kang makikita unless there is already obstruction. Diba? Pwede ka rin magpa-ultrasound. Okay. Pero mas pinakamaganda sa lahat ay yung endoscopy kasi makikita mo yung loob. So these are the different diagnostic tests. Okay. Learning po tayo. Okay. Yes. Okay. So let us, can I now erase all? Pwede ko na bang i-erase all? Yes, done. Hindi ito whiteboard eh, kaya mahirap sa ibalik. Oo. Okay, done na. Do your screenshot. Mamaya mo na isulat. Okay, all right. Now let us do our management. Management na. How do we manage patients with peptic ulcer disease and gastritis? Pareho na. Siyempre, ang unang-una mong sasabihin ay avoid. Ayun. Avoid food, okay, and drinks. Okay. Okay, that are gastric irritant. Siguro naman alam mo yung mga pagkain, spicy food, alcohol, soda, yan, etc. Okay. Avoid drugs that increase corrosive effect, okay, of hydrochloric acid. Kagaya ng aspirin, NSAID, steroids. Sinabi mo na yan. Okay. Avoid stress. Tanda natin yun, ha? Tapos yung diet ng patient. Ma'am sabi, bland diet. No? Oo nga. Sinabi na rin natin that avoid gastric irritants. Pero lagay natin, bland diet. Okay. So siguro lalagay natin yung non-irritating, okay, non-spicy, no milk, and no milk products. No milk and no milk products. Bakit? Ba't hindi kasali yung milk? Kasi the milk is an alkaline. So pag inom tayo ng milk, that will render our stomach alkaline. At pag alkaline yung stomach, that will stimulate more production of hydrochloric acid. Lalo sumangit ang tiyan mo. Okay, so that is your diet. Okay. Okay, o ano pa? Sinabi na natin yung avoid stress because stress can also cause ulcer. Diba? Okay, ano pa? By the way, naku, nakalimutan ko. Please include in the include in the diagnostic test the fecal occult blood test kasi di ba the most common complication of peptic ulcer disease is bleeding. Okay, so pag nagbi-bleed si patient, that will be seen as melena, di ba? Yung sabi niya, ma'am, avoid smoking, correct? Okay, avoid alcohol. Ayan. If the patient is in pain, the most comfortable position lang. Kung anong position ang gusto nila. Usually, side lying, tapos naka-flex yung knees, and ayan, usually ganun. Comfortable position. Okay? O, ano pa? Na-manage na natin ang risk factors. Okay? So let's go to drug therapy. Ayan, drug therapy na. Number 1, binibigyan sila ng bakit hindi pwede ang milk? Ano ba yung milk? Milk is an alkali. Diba? Base yun eh, alkali yun. So pag umiinom ka ng uminom lagi ng milk, magiging alkali yung stomach. Pag alkali yung stomach, yun ay mag-i-stimulate ng mas maraming hydrochloric acid production. So nagpo-cause siya ng tinatawag na rebound acidity. So lalong dadami yung acid. Okay na? So drug therapy, una antibiotics. Antibiotics because H. pylori is causing it. No? Yung amoxicillin lang, it's very good eh. Amoxicillin, but usually they do combination. Metronidazole also has a very good effect on H. pylori. Okay? And of course, drugs affecting gastric secretion. Okay, ano ba itong mga drugs affecting gastric secretions na to? Okay, number 1, siguro ganun na lang natin, antacids. Antacids will not treat ulcer. It will only neutralize acidity. So nakaka-relieve siya ng heartburn o kaya pyrosis. Pero hindi siya nagtitreat ng ulcer. No-neutralize lang. Antacid is usually taken 1 hour after meals. Okay? 3 times a day. Bakit? Maghihintay ka pa ng 1 hour. Kasi you need to wait until the hydrochloric acid are produced. Pag na-produce na lahat ng hydrochloric acid, ay tsaka ka ngayon. At tsaka pag na-produce na lahat, at tsaka siya mag-neutralize. Kung ibibigay mo na yan nang hindi pa nag-neutralize, magiging alkali yung stomach, baka lalong dumami yung hydrochloric acid. Okay. The best form of antacid is liquid form. Liquid. Okay. And all tablets must be chewed. Ninunguya lahat ng tablet. Take it with 1 full glass of water. Okay. Tapos, antacid may affect the absorption of other drugs. Okay. Lalo na yung tetracycline. Lagay ko ha. Antacid affect the absorption of tetracycline, NSAIDs, aspirin, steroids, and maybe many more. Kaya kapag hindi ka sure, huwag mong isabay ang antacid sa mga gamot. Pero sulfate din pala. Ferrous sulfate may affect the absorption. O di, ang dami-dami. So kung maraming nakaka-apekto sa absorption, huwag na atin niyang ibigay. So kumbaga, kung ibibigay mo sila, magkahiwalay. At least 2 hours apart. Okay? That is your antacid. Okay? Then another drug is your, kilala mo naman to, di ba? Yung PPI, di ba? Kilala mo yan. This is the best drug for GERD, the best drug for peptic ulcer disease, and the best drug for gastritis. Proton pump inhibitors. Ano nga yung example nito? Omeprazole, pantoprazole, esomeprazole. Sasabihin ko yung caption sa group na ha. Then we have the H2 receptor blockers. Diba nung example nito? Ranitidine, famotidine, cimetidine. Okay. And how can these drugs affect gastric secretion? Paano ba? Kasi ganito yan. Okay. Di ba sabi natin, ano ba yung mga cells na nagpo-produce ng hydrochloric acid? Di ba the parietal cells of the stomach? So, suppose this is our parietal cells. Okay. These parietal cells, actually, sila yung magpo-produce ng hydrochloric acid. Paano nila napo-produce? These parietal cells, they have receptors for histamine 2. Itong histamine 2, okay, pag yan ay nag-bind sa kanyang receptors, okay, once histamine 2 binds with the receptor, ito ang dahilan kung bakit yung parietal cells nagpo-produce ng hydrochloric acid. Kaya kapag binlock natin yung receptor, histamine 2, receptor blocker, pag binlock mo yung receptor, bababa yung production. So this is also a very good drug for gastritis and peptic ulcer disease. Nung wala pang PPI, that is our drug of choice. Kaya lang, that is now associated with many adverse effects. Sabi nila, mas maganda yung PPI. Kasi yung PPI, binablock niya talaga yung pump. So walang lalabas na hydrochloric acid. Ang H2 receptor blockers, that is correct. Nababawasan ang amount ng tama yan. So yung H2 receptor blocker usually taken before meals. Okay? Nakakagaling ng ulcer? Oo. Usually taken 3 to 4 months. Kaya lang nga, medyo associated with many adverse effects today. So our drug of choice now is PPI. The PPA is taken only once a day before meals, usually before breakfast. Tapos usually 2 to 4 weeks lang, tapos na. So hanggang isang buwan. So this has been said, it has been said that PPI is the most effective and the most cost-effective drug for peptic ulcer disease, gastritis, and GERD. Okay. Tapos meron pang isa yung tinatawag nating cytoprotective drug. Ito, cytoprotective drugs. Okay. Yung cytoprotective drug, it will not heal ulcer. Ano lang gagawin niya? It will just coat the ulceration. It will just coat the ulcer. Iko-coat mo niya yung ulcer. Coat. Iko-coat mo lang. So halimbawa, ito yung wait ha. Halimbawa, ito yung ating GI lining. Ayan. Ayan. Tapos ito yung ulcer. Yan yung ulcer. So ang gagawin lang niya, iko-coat niya. Yan, kino-coat. Yan. Bago kumain, ibibigay natin to bago kumain. So ang example niyan ay sucralfate. It is being given before meals. Para bago kumain, ko-cover niya muna yung ulcer. Para pag na-cover na yung ulcer at kumain na, lalabas na yung mga hydrochloric acid, hindi na siya ma-irritate further. There is no more further irritation. So hindi siya nakaka-heal, nakaka-prevent lang siya ng further irritation to ulcer or to gastritis. So these are the drugs for peptic ulcer disease and gastritis. Meron po bang surgical management? Meron. Okay. The surgical management is being given, surgical management. Ibibigay ko sa mga patient na may intractable ulcer. Especially those patients with susceptibility to possible complications. Lagay na natin, ano po ba ang complications ng ulcer? Complication of gastritis and peptic ulcer disease. The most common complication is bleeding. Sabi nga nila, kapag ikaw daw nakakita ng matanda na mayroong anemia, sipin mo baka may peptic ulcer disease. Bakit naman? Kasi di ba kapag elderly, usually meron ng mga pain. So over-the-counter med sila ng NSAIDs. At yung mga NSAIDs pwedeng mag-cause ng bleeding. Di ba? So bleeding is the most common complication. Okay. Number 2, ito ang delikado, yung perforation. Nabutas. So kasi itong ulcer na to, pwedeng lumalim ng lumalim hanggang nabutas. So pagbutas na, naku, yan din ang magkukos ng lalabas ngayon yung gastric contents sa peritoneum. So the patient will have peritonitis. Ito yung mga possible complications. Bleeding, perforation, and peritonitis. So para mapawasan at maiwasan natin yan at hindi gumagaling yung ulcer natin sa drug therapy, we do surgical management. Anong surgical management? The surgical management, number 1, surgical management, vagotomy. So, sabihin muna natin lahat. Pyloroplasty and gastroduodenectomy. duodenostomy. So these are the surgical procedures for patients with intractable ulcer. Ulit, pag sinabing intractable ulcer, the ulcer that is not healing with the usual drug therapy. Okay? So isa-isahin natin yung surgical management. Itong management na to ang nagpatagal sa discussion ng peptic ulcer disease and gastritis. Okay. Grabe, isang oras na. Kabilis naman. Are we done copying? Tapos na ba dito sa management? Tapos na po ba sa management? Nagkokopya kasi kayo. I need to ask. Tapos na sa management. Okay, tapos na raw. Sige. Okay, burahin na natin. Ayan. So, isa-isahin natin yung surgery. Vagotomy. Ano bang ginagawa dyan? You cut the vagus nerve supply of the stomach. Ay, teka. Para saan ba ang vagus nerve? The vagus nerve is cranial nerve number 10. Okay, this is your vagus nerve. Okay? And vagus nerve will actually supply 75% of parasympathetic nervous system. 75% of parasympathetic. Ano nga ulit ang effect ng parasympathetic sa GI tract? Diba? Rest and digest. So yung parasympathetic will increase gastric secretion and motility. Rest and digest. So pag na-stimulate ang vagus nerve, dumadami yung gastric secretion, dumadami yung hydrochloric acid. Okay? So anong ginawa ko? Pinutol ko yung vagus nerve. When you cut the vagus nerve supply, what will be the effect? The effect is you decrease hydrochloric acid secretion. Kasi wala ka ng parasympathetic supply. Walang nag-i-stimulate para sa gastric secretion. Diba? So this is our vagotomy. Pag nabawasan ng gastric acid secretion, already okay na. Diba? That's your vagotomy. Then we have pyloroplasty. Pyloroplasty. Pyloroplasty is widening of the pyloric sphincter. Okay. Nasaan nga ba itong pyloric sphincter na to? I-drawing natin. So, ito yung esophagus. Ayan. Ito yung stomach. Ayan. Tapos, di ba, ito yung pyloric. Ito yung pylorus. So, dito nagkakaroon, nasasara yan. Sumasara. Okay. Di ba, sabi natin, every time the food will get into the stomach, nagsasara to. Okay. So, anong gagawin natin? Huwag na yung pagsarahin. Kapag merong ulcer dito sa stomach, okay, huwag nang isara yan. So, what will happen now is you widen it. Paluwagin pa natin. Paluwagin. 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 Okay. So, hindi na nagsasara. So, pagka merong pagkain na pumunta rito, hindi na mag-i-stay dyan. Hindi na mai-irritate ang stomach. Kung meron ditong ulcer at merong pagkain, hindi na nag-i-stay dyan. Lalabas na agad-agad. So, do we lessen the irritation of the ulcer in the stomach? Yes. So, what is the result of pyloroplasty? The result is there is rapid gastric emptying. Mabilis ang pag-empty ng gastric content, agad-agad. Rapid gastric emptying. Okay? So this is your pyloroplasty. Yung ulcer nandyan sa stomach para hindi na siya ma-irritate. Yun lang, bumibilis ang gastric emptying. And then the last one is gastroduodenostomy. Okay, before I discuss that, kayo namang lahat ay galing na sa MS1, diba? So narinig nyo na yung treatment for gastric cancer. I'm sure narinig mo na yung Billrot 1 at saka Billrot 2. Ang gumawa nito si Dr. Billroth, kaya tinawag na Billroth 1. This is gastroduodenostomy. Okay. And Billroth 2, okay. Billroth 2 is gastrojejunostomy. Ayan. So you have your Billroth 1 and Billroth 2. This is for management of gastric cancer. Okay. Naalala mo yan, ha? Yung gastric cancer. Okay. So, paano nga yun ginagawa? No? Halimbawa, ulit, ito yung ating stomach. Ayan. Ito yung esophagus, sorry. This is the stomach. Ayan. Sorry naman sa pag-drawing ko, ha? Ito yung duodenum. Okay. If the cancer is here in the upper portion of the stomach, okay, they will do Billroth 1. Ang una nilang gagawin ay tatanggalin ang stomach. So there is gastrectomy. Tatanggalin. Excuse me. Okay, tatanggalin. Gastrectomy. So removal of the stomach. Tapos, i-connect nila yung remaining stump ng stomach sa duodenum. Kaya ang tawag ay gastroduodenostomy. Nagtanggal sila ng stomach. Oo, nagtanggal sila ng stomach. Okay. How about gastrojejunostomy? Okay. Sa Billroth 2, the cancer is way below the stomach. Nasa ilalim kasi. So dahil nasa ilalim, ito yung cancer. Nasa ilalim, ayan. So, ang gagawin, tatanggalin din yung stomach. Pero pati duodenum, tatanggalin. Okay? The duodenum will be removed as well. So, ang ating procedure, tinanggal yung stomach, gastro, tinanggal ang duodenum, duodenectomy, gastro-duodenectomy. Tapos, the remaining stump of the stomach is connected to the jejunum. Kaya ang tawag ay gastrojejunostomy. The surgery called gastroduodenostomy is patterned, okay? It is patterned from the Billroth 1 or the Billroth 2 procedure. It is patterned on the Billroth 1 and the Billroth 2 procedure. Okay. Paano ginagawa ito? Tingnan natin, ha? I will erase this na. Erase ko na to, ha? Okay. So, yung gastroduodenostomy, hindi naman tatanggalin yung stomach kasi wala namang cancer, eh. Gastroenterostomy pala. Sorry. Gastroenterostomy. Yun. This is the procedure. Gastroenterostomy. Okay. So, anong gagawin? Ito yung stomach. Okay. Okay, so the nawala. Sa gastroenterostomy, ito siya. Ito yung esophagus, ayan. Ito yung stomach, ayan. Ito yan. Ayan yan. Okay, halimbawa, meron siyang intractable ulcer. Nandito sa stomach at saka nandito sa duodenum. Halimbawa. Okay? So, ang gagawin, iba-bypass na to. Kukuha ka ng small intestine dito sa ilalim, iduduktong na niya dito. Ayan, duduktong na niya dyan. Okay. So, gastroenterostomy. Ma'am, ito po puputulan. Hindi. Pwedeng magkaduktong lang din sila kasi gaganon lang niya. Or pwede rin naman siyang i-cut, pero hindi na dadaan dyan ng mga galing sa stomach. Wala na. So kapag yung pagkain na yan, dediretso na dito yan. Hindi na dadaan dito, hindi na dadaan dito, dediretso na dyan. So hindi na mai-irritate yung mga ulcer. So ang tawag dyan, gastroenterostomy, which will cause also rapid gastric emptying, which will also cause rapid gastric emptying. Okay? Do you understand? Naintindihan ba? Okay. So yan yung ating gastroenterostomy. Nagkakaroon ng rapid gastric emptying. Okay? Sandali lang, class. Wait lang. All right. Okay, so one possible complication of gastroenterostomy causing rapid gastric emptying and pyloroplasty, which is also causing rapid gastric emptying. The problem that can happen after surgery is what we call the dumping syndrome. Tandaan mo to, ha? Dumping. Ano po ba yung dumping syndrome? Pag sinabi nating syndrome, it is a collection of signs and symptoms. The signs and symptoms of dumping syndrome can lead to possibility of hypovolemic shock. So ano yung signs and symptoms na yun? Initially, the patient will have diarrhea. The patient may have cramping ng abdomen. Sasakit yung tiyan, magkakaroon ng diarrhea, tapos magkakaroon ng tachycardia, tapos magkakaroon ng sweating, diaphoresis, ayan, diaphoresis, tapos magkakaroon ng hypotension, magkakaroon ng hypovolemia. Pwede bang mag-shock? Pwede. Anong type ng shock? Hypovolemic shock. Bakit nagkakaroon ng dumping syndrome? What is the possible cause of this aside from rapid gastric emptying? Bakit nagkakaroon yan? Okay? Tingnan natin na i-move ko lang ito dyan. Ito, move natin ito. Okay? So, let us have this example. So, di ba ito yung intestine? Okay? The wall of the intestine is actually lined by blood vessels. Ibahin natin yung kulay para makita mo. Ito yung blood vessel. Siyempre, hindi naman ganyang kalakihan. Maliliit lang yan at saka nasa wall yan. Kaya ko lang sineparate para makita natin. Ito ay ano? Ito yung blood vessel. Ito yung blood vessel. Tapos ito yung intestine. Okay? Okay. So, dumping syndrome, the stimulus for dumping syndrome is eating food rich in carbohydrates. Okay? So, kapag ang pasyente natin kumain ng pagkain na mayaman sa sugar, high carbohydrate, especially simple sugar, high carbohydrate diet. So, anong mangyayari? So, di ba, pag kumain ka ng high carbo or simple sugar, babagsak agad yan sa blood, sa intestine. Di ba, babagsak agad kasi rapid gastric emptying. So, what will happen? There is increased carbohydrate or glucose in the intestine. Tataas yung glucose dyan sa intestine. The glucose in the intestine will attract water. So, yung water sa blood vessel, maa-attract dito sa intestine. So anong mangyayari dyan sa blood, sa water na yan? E di ilalabas niya, magkakaroon siya ng diarrhea. Magkakaroon siya ng abdominal cramping. Natural, magkakaroon ng cramping dito, di ba? Sasakit yung tiyan niya. O, tapos, magtatakicardia, magdadiaphoresis. Ayun. So this, magkakaroon na siya ng dumping syndrome that can lead to shock. Anong type ng shock? Hypovolemic shock. Delikado ba yun? So ano yung cause ng dumping syndrome? The cause of dumping syndrome, number 1, high carbohydrate. And number 2, rapid gastric emptying. So one very common question in the examination class is how to prevent dumping syndrome after surgery. So let us do our nursing intervention on how to prevent dumping syndrome. Okay. Can I erase this portion now? Pwede ko na bang i-erase tong bagotom? Pwede na po. Done already. Na-picturean nyo na. Kung hindi kayo makasulat at maka-relate at the same time, picturean na muna tapos mamaya mo sulat. Habang sinusulat mo, nire-review mo. Diba? Kailangan na nating mag-review. Okay, so what are the nursing interventions to prevent dumping syndrome? Okay, so we have nursing interventions to prevent dumping syndrome. Importante ito ha. Okay, number 1, eat in a recumbent position. Medyo nakapahiga ka kakain para mabagal ang gastric emptying. Okay. Number 2, lie down after meals. Left side. Okay, bakit sa left side? Kasi nandun yung stomach sa left. Diba? Kasi pagka kumanan ka, tataas yung stomach, mag-empty lalo yung lie down after meals. Okay. Diba? Ay, number 2 pa lang siya. Sorry. Okay. Number 3. Okay. Eat small and frequent meals. Hindi pwedeng kumain ng maramihan ng 3 beses. No. Should be 4 to 6 small meals per day. Kasi mabibilis ang gastric emptying. Hindi pwede. Okay? The number 4, liquid must be taken in between meals. Hindi mo pwedeng isabay yung tubig sa pagkain. Bibilis yung gastric emptying. Kawawa yung patient. Paano pag ang ulam niya ay sinigang? Diba? Laman muna, sabaw later. After 2 hours, kasi pwedeng sabay. Kasi magbibilis ang emptying. So liquid must be taken in between meals. So yung number 1, 2, 3, 4, those are intervention to slow down gastric emptying. Man, yung carbohydrate, yan, bawasan natin yan. Low carbohydrate in the diet, no simple sugar. No simple sugar. Kasi yan ang stimulus. Tapos we have high protein diet. Di ba high protein diet will increase oncotic pressure in the blood vessel to prevent fluid shifting. Di ba pag nagtatae, sabi natin ay pag nagtatae, high protein para hindi mag-shift yung fluid. And moderate fat. Oh, bakit nagkaroon ng moderate fat? Kasi the presence of fat in the stomach will slow down gastric emptying. Nag-slow down ng gastric emptying. Okay? And of course, bigyan natin ng medication. So give anti-spasmodic drug to decrease motility para hindi mabilis ang gastric emptying. And one best example of that is your Buscopan, yung Hyoscine, anti-spasmodic yan. So these are the ways to prevent dumping syndrome after surgery. Okay, ito pang RLE naman. But you know, since nag-surgery tayo, kapag merong mga abdominal surgery, what are possible complications? Okay. Number 1, tandaan mo, the most common complication of surgery is bleeding. Number 2, infection. Siyempre, binuksan mo. Bacteria can easily get into it. Diba? Pag tinanggalan siya ng stomach, gastrectomy, tinanggalan. So the patient may not have intrinsic factor anymore. So the patient may have pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia. Okay. The number 4, ito, Dumping syndrome. Okay. Dumping syndrome. Kasi di ba, pagka nag-rapid gastric emptying, this can be a complication. So we have hemorrhage, we have infection, we have pernicious anemia, and of course, dumping syndrome kapag may mga abdominal surgery. Okay, so these are complications from abdominal surgery kapag merong mga gastrectomy or pill rot, etc. So this is your peptic ulcer disease, this is your gastritis management. Learning po? Okay, very good. Ayan. O sige, you tell me when you're done copying. So let us move forward to our next inflammatory condition. Done na? Done? Done, done, done. Si Claire pa lang ang done. Lahat ba done na? You tell me pag done na lahat. Okay, so done na ha. Erase natin lahat. Alright. Now let us proceed to another inflammatory disease. Ang tawag dito anak, IBD. Inflammatory bowel disease. This is also called CIBD. O baka pag nakakita ka ng letter C, maloka ka na. Yung CIBD, nilagyan lang niya ng C kasi chronic. Okay, so this is chronic inflammatory disease. Chronic CI, chronic inflammatory bowel disease. So this is known either as CIBD or IBD. Pareho yun. Makaiba yung IBD sa IBS. Okay. Anong nangyayari? Meron tayong dalawang klase ng IBD. Yung isa ang tawag Crohn's disease, and this is also called regional enteritis. Regional enteritis. Okay. So ang affected dito ay small intestine. Ang affected dyan ay small intestine. This is your regional enteritis. Sa ulcerative colitis, ang affected dito ay large intestine. Ang affected ay large intestine. Yan yung affected. So dito, regional enteritis, yung small intestine. Dito, ulcerative colitis, large intestine. Look at the characteristic lesions in the regional enteritis. There is muscle hypertrophy, yung cobblestone appearance. Kung yan, tandaan mo yung cobblestone sa Crohn's disease yan. Tsaka may mga fissures. Pag ulcerative colitis, you see ulceration in the mucosal line. May inflammation sila, meron. What is the cause? We do not know the cause. Idiopathic. Okay, this is the small intestine, this is the large intestine. Tara, i-discuss natin ng sabay. Okay, can I erase now? Okay na? Okay, so i-discuss natin ha. Ayan. Eto, meron na naman akong blanco dito. Okay, inflammatory bowel disease. Okay, so we have one, regional enteritis, which is also called Crohn's disease. Ano ang affected? Small intestine. Okay. This is the small intestine. Okay. Then the other one is ulcerative colitis. So ano naman ang affected dito? This is the large intestine. This is the large intestine. So we have small intestine and large intestine. Inflammatory bowel disease or chronic inflammatory bowel disease. Okay. Sabay nating i-discuss ha. What is the etiology? Idiopathic. We do not know the cause for both. Yes. Meron po bang risk factors man lang? Meron. The risk factors include family history for both. Stress for both. Now, one book in medical surgical nursing by Lemon and Burke, I read that one possible risk factor for ulcerative colitis is the presence of IBS. So kapag may IBS daw, risk factor for developing ulcerative colitis. Tapos yung ulcerative colitis is a risk factor naman for possible development naman ng colon cancer. Pero pag wala pong risk factor na yan, pwede silang magkaroon. Opo. Okay. Pwede. Kahit wala kang risk factor. O, idiopathic na eh. Okay. What is the pathogenesis? The pathogenesis is the development of inflammation. Inflammation. Ba't siya nagkaroon ng inflammation? We do not know the cause. Lagay ko nandito ha. Yan. Pathogenesis. There is inflammation. Here, inflammation is starting from the terminal ileum going up. Starting from the terminal ileum going up. Ayan. Yan yung regional enteritis. Okay. Sa ulcerative colitis, nagkakaroon ng inflammation from the rectum. Rectum going up. Ay, laging nanggagaling sa ilalim, pataas. Bakit nagkaroon ng inflammation? We do not know nga. Idiopathic nga. We do not know the cause. Basta na lang nagka-inflammation. Oo. Nakakasunod? Nakakasunod ka. Following tayo. Nakakasunod po tayo. Yes. Yes, okay. Tapos, what is the most prominent clinical manifestation? The most prominent clinical manifestation is diarrhea. Dahil sa inflammation, you alter the function of the GI tract. Pag regional enteritis, the characteristic diarrhea is 5 to 6 soft stools per day. Okay. Rarely bloody. Bakit sinabi na rarely bloody? Kasi nasa small intestine. Diba kapag may bleeding sa small intestine, you don't see fresh blood in the stool, diba? You see melena. Kaya nga importante na meron siyang fecal occult blood test para makita natin. Hindi kagaya sa ulcerative colitis. There's 10 to 20 bloody stools per day. 10 to 20 bloody stools per day. 10 to 20 bloody stools per day. Tindi na. Bloody kasi may ulcer, diba? Tapos nasa large intestine. Now, another prominent manifestation, of course, meron siyang pain. Okay. Nasaan ang pain kapag regional enteritis? The pain is in the right lower quadrant. Kapag nasa ulcerative, nasa large intestine, left lower quadrant pain. Okay, and then what is the clinical course? Paano mo nakikita yung clinical course ng regional enteritis? Yung clinical course ng regional enteritis, insidious, dahan-dahan, gradual ang signs and symptoms. Dito hindi. May makikita mo dito ay exacerbation and remission. Nawawala, bumabalik. Pag bumalik, mas malala. Nag-exacerbate. There is exacerbation and remission. That's your clinical course. So, ano ngayon nursing diagnosis mo? Acute pain. Diarrhea is a nursing diagnosis. Risk for fluid volume deficit. Tama. Pwede mag-shock. Anong type ng shock? Hypovolemic shock. Diba? So aside from all these two clinical manifestation, ano pa yung signs and symptoms? Lahat sila. Siyempre, imaginein mo yung mga nangyayari sa kanya. Meron kaya silang fatigue? Malamang. Meron kaya silang weakness? Malamang. Diba? The patient may have weight loss. Abay nagtatae. Diba? Ano pa? The patient may have anemia. Nagbe-bleed. So these are the clinical manifestations. Okay? So from all these clinical manifestations, common to both, baka akala nyo sa isa lang yan. Okay, you will have more of your nursing diagnosis. Class, nakakasunod ba kayo? Nakakasunod ba tayo? Yes. Nakakasunod, ha? Okay, very good. So, pareho rin po ba sila ng possible complications? Oo. So, ano ba yung mga possible complications? Siyempre, unahin na natin yung nutritional deficiency. Nutritional deficiency. Siyempre, pareho. Oo naman. May weight loss na nga yan. Imbalanced nutrition less than body requirements. Diba? The patient will have hypovolemic shock. Right? Nakakatakot to. Ano pa? The patient may have the patient may have fistula formation and intestinal obstruction. Paano nangyayari yan? Okay, ano ba yung fistula formation? Okay. Naalala mo kanina, dun sa ating peptic ulcer disease, lumalalim yung ulcer, di ba? Lumalim. Okay. Dito, hindi siya lumalim, di ba? Ito yung ulcer, ayan. Imbis na lumalim, lumalim hanggang nabutas. That is perforation. Okay. Ito, hindi ganun. So, yung ulcer, instead na lumalim, okay, naging ganito. Wait lang. Okay. So, ito yung ulcer. Ayan. Ayan, di ba? Okay. Imbis na lumalim, nag-fistula, gumanon. Yun. So, dito siya. Ito yung nabutas. Ito. So, ano mangyayari? Ito ngayon, dadaan dito ngayon yung mga pagkain, di ba? Nabutas. Ano mangyayari dyan sa taas na yan? It flips up. Aakyat yan. Siyempre, gaganon siya. O pag nakaganyan na siya, hindi na makakadaan to. So, there will be obstruction. So, meron kang fistula formation and intestinal obstruction for both of them. Okay? So, isulat natin yung mga pare-pareho nating nursing diagnosis. So, ano pa yung mga pare-pareho nating nursing diagnosis? Nursing diagnosis. Siyempre, meron tayong diarrhea. That is a nursing diagnosis. Meron tayong acute or chronic pain. That is a nursing diagnosis. Fatigue is a nursing diagnosis. There is activity intolerance. That is your nursing diagnosis. Okay? Imbalanced nutrition less than body requirements. That is your nursing diagnosis. Pare-pareho ba sila ng nursing diagnosis? Oo naman. Okay. There is risk for hypovolemic shock. Or we can say there is risk for complications. Lagay natin, risk for complications. Okay, so ano yung ating diagnostic test? Okay, the most definitive diagnostic test, of course, is endoscopy. Siyempre, pagka sa colon, colonoscopy, kapag sa intestine, enteroscopy. Kasi makikita mo yung cobblestone appearance sa regional enteritis, yung mga ulcers, ulcerative colitis, makikita yun. Okay, endoscopy. Then we have barium enema. Barium enema. Siyempre, dun sa hiatal layer niya, barium swallow. Dito, barium enema. Halimbawa, yung pasyente mo mag-undergo ng tatlong procedure. Colonoscopy, barium swallow, tsaka barium enema. Halimbawa lang. Anong uunahin mo? Ito yung uunahin mo. Uunahin mo yung colonoscopy. Pagkatapos yung barium enema. Tapos yung barium swallow. Kasi colonoscopy, natural, para wala pa siyang barium. Uunahin mo yung barium enema para sa ilalim yun eh. Kasi pag inuma mo yung barium swallow, lalagpak na yung barium sa baba. Hindi mo na siya masyadong ma-appreciate. So barium enema muna, tsaka yung barium swallow. Tandaan mo yan. Okay? Tapos pwede ka rin magpa-fecal occult blood test, lalo na sa regional enteritis kasi baka hindi mo alam, akala mo maitim lang yung stool, yung pala meron ng blood. Okay? Yung abdominal x-ray, sabi nila, makikita mo lang naman sa abdominal x-ray pag merong obstruction. Okay? So, pwede rin ka rin siguro magpa-full abdominal ultrasound or better yet, pwede silang magpa-CT scan yan, o kaya MRI. Pero ang pinakamaganda talaga ay endoscopy kasi yung CT scan, MRI, nakikita mo lang yung nasa labas. Yung nasa loob, well, sa MRI pwede, pero hindi yung endoscopy kasi kitang-kita talaga siya. Yun talaga yung makikita natin. Okay, so this is our diagnostic test. And how do we manage our patient? Management for IBD is palliative. Anong ibig sabihin ng palliative? Anong ibig sabihin ng palliative? Relief of signs and symptoms. So, hindi sila gumagaling. Hindi. Nare-relieve lang natin ang signs and symptoms. Relief of signs and symptoms only. Number 1, anong symptom? Diarrhea. So, anong bibigay mo? Orisol. Diba? So, you have to increase oral fluid intake. Diarrhea, diet. Anong diet ng may diarrhea? High protein, low residue diet. Ano pa? Okay. Sa pain, ma'am, the patient has pain. So, bibigyan natin siya ng anti-inflammatory drugs. Anong anti-inflammatory drug? Sulfasalazine. Sulfasalazine. Ang sulfasalazine is salicylate. Ma'am, para siyang aspirin. May anti-inflammatory effect. But hindi pwede aspirin bigay. Hindi pwede aspirin. Nagkukos ng bleeding lalo. May bleeding na nga to, di ba? So another one is steroids. Steroids have very good anti-inflammatory effect. Okay? O tapos, ma'am, how about putulin na lang natin yan? Hindi pwede. Ay, lagay natin avoid stress. Ayan. Kasi stress nakaka-exacerbate ng symptoms. Okay, how about surgery, ma'am? Putulin na lang yan. Putulin na lang daw. Kapag regional enteritis, anong ginagawa nila? Ileal resection. Ileal resection. Puputulin yung ileal resection. Puputulin yung ileum, ileostomy. Okay, ileal resection. Pag ulcerative colitis, colon resection. Tapos gagawa ng colostomy. Okay. Sa RLE nyo yan tinuturo, yung colostomy care. Maraming questions sa exam minsan, puro colostomy care. Anyway, sa RLE yan. So, tandaan lang that surgery is even palliative. Surgery will come in as a last resort. Pagka po ba inoperahan na si patient, wala na po ba siyang sakit? No. Pag inoperahan ba siya, pwedeng bumalik ulit yung sakit niya. Yes. So, hindi assurance yung surgery na hindi na babalik yung sakit niya. Pwedeng bumalik ulit yun, even if there is surgery already. By the way, yung age nito, across ages yung regional enteritis, older. Pag regional enteritis, middle, mga 35 to 55 years old. Yung ulcerative colitis, meron sa young, 16 to 25 years old. Meron din sa old. It's about mga 55 to 65. So, sa kanilang dalawa, all across ages, pwede. Okay, so this is your IBD. Do you understand? No, natapos ko na yung CU2 ha. CU2 is peptic ulcer disease and IBD. Tapos yung CU3, yung iba pa. Appendicitis, etc. Cholecystitis. Ayan. Okay? So, if you're done writing, tell me, pakisabi tapos na. Dahil, dali, para mapura. Para hindi na babalik. Okay na. O, yung hindi pa tapos, sabi mo, wait lang para tapusin ko. Okay? Done na to? Okay, so that was inflammatory bowel disease. Okay, now let's move on to one very common problem, and this is usually common among young adults. Okay, alam mo na to, no? This is appendicitis. Appendicitis is inflammation of the vermiform appendix. Okay, inflammation of vermiform appendix. Meron tayo lahat nun. Diba? Pag sinabi nga nung pasyente sa akin, doktora, masakit ang tiyan ko, parang meron akong appendix. So, sabi ko, ako rin meron nun. The appendix is located in the ileocecal junction. Ileocecal junction. Okay. So, ito yung ileum. Ayan. Ito yung ileum. Ito yung cecum. Okay. So, ito yung ileocecal junction. Sorry. Ito yung ileocecal junction. Nandito yung appendix. Okay. This is the ileum. This is the cecum. This is the appendix. Okay. What is the etiology of appendicitis? The etiology is an obstruction caused by fecalith. A fecalith is a hardened stool. Fecalith is a hardened stool. Okay. So, paano nagkakaroon nito? Okay. Pag nagkaroon ng fecalith at nabarahan dito mismo sa appendix, ayan, nag-cause ng obstruction. Okay. So, what will happen? Itong appendix na to, lahat ng secretion ng small intestine, meron din siya. May mucus, may Peyer's patches, may lymphocytes. Sabi nga sa book, it is actually rich with many lymphocytes or immune tissues, diba? Ganon. So, yung mga secretion niya, meron din. So, ang problema, kapag nagkaroon ng obstruction, hindi na siya makaka-flow pataas. So, what will happen? Mamamaga yung appendix, mag-focus ng swelling, lalaki. And much worse, kapag nagkaroon ng obstruction na yan, there will be decreasing blood flow to the appendix, diba? Kasi maiipit yung mga blood vessels. So dahil doon, magkakaroon palalo ng ischemia. Pag nag-ischemia, magkakaroon ng injury. Pag may injury, magkakaroon ng inflammation. Meron ka ng inflammation of the appendix. Okay? So ano na naman ang signs and symptoms? Diba pare-pareho nga? Ito yung characteristic ng appendicitis. Ito yung characteristic ng appendicitis. Okay, usually yung pain, classic to ha, classic manifestation. Classic symptoms, usually pain starts. Okay, usually pain starts in the epigastric area. Nag-uumpisa sa epigastric area. Kaya akala ng patient ay ano lang siya, na hindi lang siya natunawan. Tapos slowly going to the right lower quadrant. Nagpupunta sa right lower quadrant. Okay, slowly going to the pain starts in the epigastric area, going to the right lower quadrant. So pupunta siya sa right lower quadrant. Tapos the patient will be in pain, no? Okay. Tapos habang pumupunta siya doon sa right lower quadrant, nagkakaroon na siya ng fever. Tapos nagkakaroon na ng nausea and vomiting. Meron din siyang indigestion or dyspepsia. There is also feeling of bloatedness. Yeah, these are the classic symptoms. Yung hindi classic, yung iba-iba yung pain nasa umbilical area. Yung isang estudyante ko, the pain was in the right upper quadrant. So ito yung classic, ganito yung manifestations. Okay, and how do we assess our patient? So pag in-assess natin yung patient, we have the following assessment for appendicitis. These are suggestive of appendicitis. Hindi naman siya definitive, suggestive lang. So ano yung mga assessment natin? Papahigain natin yung pasyente and we want to test for a positive rebound tenderness. Paano nga ginagawa yun? Didiinan mo yung right lower quadrant niya. Pag diin mo sa right lower quadrant, masakit. Pag diin, masakit. Pag tinanggal mo, lalong sumigaw, lalong masakit. Lahin natin ha. Deep palpation in the right lower quadrant will cause pain. And sudden withdrawal, okay, will produce more pain. Lalong masakit. Okay? So ito yung ating rebound tenderness. Hindi yan definitive, suggestive lang. Tapos meron din tayong tinatawag na the rebound tenderness is called Bloomberg test. Okay, so this is called the Bloomberg test. Okay, then we have also the Bloomberg's test or Bloomberg sign. Meron din tayong Robsing sign. Okay, so yung Robsing sign, deep palpation on the left lower quadrant will cause pain on the right. So doon ka nagpalpate sa left. Deep palpation on the left lower quadrant will cause pain on the right lower quadrant. Okay, so that's your Robsing signs. Okay. Tapos, again, suggestive only, meron din tayong obturator sign. So yung obturator sign, let the patient lie supine. Okay, nakasupine yung patient. Flex the hips, the right hip and knee. Then rotate. If this maneuver will give right lower quadrant pain, then that's a positive obturator sign. Ang nangyayari daw dyan, the inflamed appendix is actually irritating the obturator muscle. Okay. Meron din tayong positive psoas sign. Again, this is not definitive. This is only suggestive. The patient lying supine, okay, then flex the hip, the right hip with knee extended. Okay, with knee extended. And if this will cause right lower quadrant pain, so this is a positive psoas sign. Okay? So these are the different assessment, but they are only suggestive. Hindi sila definitive. Okay? So ma'am, meron ba tayong diagnostic test? I will erase this left portion. Okay. Meron po bang diagnostic test? Okay. Meron. Majority of diagnostic tests are not definitive. They are only suggestive. Okay. Pero ang CT scan at ang MRI, well, nakikita na nila yung inflamed appendix ngayon. Okay. Kaya lang dito sa atin, majority, hindi naman agad pinagagawa yun, di ba? So yung diagnostic test natin dito, papa-CBC natin yan. What do we expect of the CBC? Mataas ang WBC. Pag mataas pa ang WBC, ibig sabihin ba may appendicitis? No. Suggestive lang yan. Okay. Number 2, urinalysis natin yan. Pagka ba may UTI, ibig sabihin may appendicitis? No. You just need to rule out possibility of UTI kasi ang UTI nagpo-cause din ng right lower quadrant pain. Okay? O ano pa? Kapag reproductive female ang masakit ang tiyan, pinapa-pregnancy test. Kasi baka ectopic pregnancy yan. Okay? Baka nga. Pa-ultrasound natin. Baka naman kasi pelvic ovarian, twisted ovarian cyst yan. So, tinurule out natin, baka naman dyan, pelvic inflammatory disease. So, maraming ginagawa, lalo na sa babae, kasi meron tayong pelvic organs dyan sa right lower quadrant. Okay. Well, yung iba, pinapa-CT scan, pinapa-MRI, para makita. So, the CT scan gives the most definitive test. Okay. Yung aking pamangkin dun sa US, nasabi pa lang sa akin, sabi ko, mukhang appendicitis yan, dali niyo sa ospital. So pagdating sa ospital, CBC, urinalysis, they were sent home with antacid. Sabi ate, antacid lang daw. Iba pa naman ang healthcare sa ibang bansa. Hindi ka basta makakapunta sa doktor doon, di ba? Sa ospital, you need an appointment unless severe emergency. Tapos hindi siya gumagaling. Sabi ko, balik mo na yan. Nakakatakot. Baka mamaya appendicitis talaga. So finally, when they came back, ayun na. Tsaka lang si CT scan. Kasi hindi nga indication yung CT scan agad. So nung na-CT scan, ayun, malapit nang sumabog. O edi, appendectomy rin siya. Dito sa atin, marami akong nalaman na appendicitis cases. Magagaling mga surgeons eh. Even if they don't have the CT scan, they can diagnose. At majority, tumatama sila sa appendicitis talaga. Okay? So these are the different diagnostic tests. Okay? So how do we manage? There is no management to appendicitis except surgery. Ang appendicitis is considered class as an acute abdomen. Anong ibig sabihin pag sinabing acute abdomen? Acute abdomen, ibig sabihin, need surgery within 24 to 36 hours. Kailangan maoperahan ka within 24 hours. Diba? Ito yung sinasabi niya, do not let the sun sets twice in a patient with an acute abdomen kasi baka mamatay siya. There is no cure here but surgery. Okay. Pero lagyan naman natin ng mga nursing management. Kahit naman ba opera, kailangan yung nursing management tayo. Okay. Can I erase this assessment now? Pwede ko na bang i-erase yung assessment? Pwede ko nang i-erase. Okay. Erase natin yung assessment. Okay. So, ano ang management natin? Lagyan natin ang management ha. Okay, so number 1, dumating yung patient natin in pain. So anong gagawin mo? Position natin siya. Comfortable position. What is your nursing diagnosis? Acute pain. Okay. Pero ang mga nurses hindi naman magbibigay ng pain reliever, 'di ba? So una, position mo lang siya, or you can also put cold compress over the abdomen. Compress. Never heat. Never heat. Takyan natin ha. Never heat. Cold compress. Bakit? Because heat may cause rupture of the appendix. Kung appendicitis siya, baka mag-cause ng rupture yan. Okay? O tapos, anong gagawin natin? Ina-assess pa lang natin yung patient. Diba? O sabi pa lang, being work up pa lang for possible appendicitis. Wala tayong ibang pwedeng ibigay and the doctor will not give analgesic kasi baka mamask yung real cause ng pain. So, minsan nagngangawa yung pasyente natin kung kawawa naman. Relieve anxiety of the patient. Explain what is happening. Importante yun. Okay? Tapos hindi na siya papakainin kung possibility ng 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 appendicitis to. Hindi mo na siya papakainin. Okay? Mamula pang binibigay na gamot, wala. Unless the doctor is already sure that the patient is having appendicitis. So kung sinabi ng doctor, ay appendicitis yan, tara na, let's go to let's prepare for appendectomy. Prepare na natin for appendectomy. Naka-NPO ka na kanina. Kasi nga, di ba, hindi mo napakainin kasi baka lalong magka-problema pag ooperahan. When the doctor decides for appendectomy, at this is appendicitis, tsaka lang siya bibigyan ng analgesic. And the doctor may start giving anti-infective drug. Pwede nang magbigay ng antibiotic. Yeah, nagbibigay na sila as ordered. Okay. Tapos the patient now will go to the OR for appendectomy. Tapos saan nga hinihiwa? Dito sa tinatawag nilang, dito ka magkakaroon ng cut, diba? Diyan sa cut na yan. At yan ay tinatawag na McBurney's point. Ayan. Ang tawag dyan ay McBurney's point. Okay, ang tawag dyan ay McBurney's point. Yan, dyan siya hihiwain para mag-appendectomy. Now, complications. One possible complication of appendectomy is rupture. Pag nag-rupture ang appendix, okay, so what will happen? Nagkakaroon ng peritonitis. Pag may peritonitis na class, ito ang characteristic ng peritonitis, tandaan mo. Yung pasyente, akala niya parang nawala na yung pain. Hindi talaga nawala. Naging severe yung pain. Kaya lang, the peritonitis pain may cause, this will cause abdominal muscle spasm. Abdominal muscle spasm. Mag-i-spasm yung abdominal muscle. Kaya kapag ito characteristic to, tandaan mo to ha. Kaya pag may peritonitis at hinawakan mo yung kanyang abdomen, grabe, rigid, board-like abdomen. At ang ibig sabihin nito, may peritonitis si patient. Mas malala yan? Oo. Tapos, absent bowel sound. Naku po. Ma'am, anong gagawin? Di surgery rin. Pero pag sa surgery na ang peritonitis, hindi na appendectomy. Ay ano nang igagawin sa kanya? Exploratory laparotomy. Yan na yung gagawin sa kanya. Exploratory laparotomy. Okay? Learning po tayo. Learning. O yung mga nilalagyan ng drain. Ma'am, pag pumutok po ba yung 50-50 yung operation? Depende. Depende. Pwedeng tama yan. 50-50. Pwede. But they will still do surgery. Kasi pag hindi mo surgery, wala. Zero na yan. Mamamatay na. Kailangan talaga niya ng surgery kapag nag-rupture. This type of peritonitis is called secondary peritonitis. This type of peritonitis needs surgery. Tandaan mo yung rigid board-like abdomen. Okay? Ang patient will be positioned on a semi-Fowler's position para daw hindi umangat yung inflammation pataas. So yung report ng mga patient, akala niya okay na siya, nawala na yung pain. Pero hindi niya alam, pumutok na. Hindi naman siya talaga nawala eh. Akala lang niya walang masyadong pain kasi matigas, kasi nagmask. Pero sa totoo lang, meron. Okay? So this is your appendicitis. Do we understand? Learning tayo. Okay. Then we have diverticulitis. Mga anak, after diverticulitis, caring nyo pa ba? O, meron pa naman tayo. May bukas pa naman. So you can study already for the quiz tomorrow. Magluluto na sana. O sige, bukas na natin. O, gutom na rin ako. O sige, let us, are you done writing? Done writing? Yes, okay. All right.